So now you have your new M4 iPad Pro. Maybe you even got a case for your new M4 iPad Pro. But what are you gonna do on it? Well, a lot of people use their iPads for note-taking. So today we're gonna go over 3 major note-taking apps and which one is gonna be best for you and your circumstance. I'm gonna also briefly mention 2 other apps at the end that I think deserve an honorable mention, but we're mainly gonna focus on Goodnotes, Notability, and Apple Notes. So we're gonna start with Goodnotes. There's 3 things that I want to talk about with each of these note-taking apps primarily, and that is their pricing and what features you get for free, and that is their compatibility, and that is their tools or unique features that each of them have. So first, talking about Goodnotes' pricing. There are 2 options for the paid version, at least on Apple's platform. There is a one-time purchase that is $30, and there's also a subscription purchase, which is $10 a year. And there are slight differences between the one-time and the subscription service. And the main difference is if you do one-time purchase, you will not have cross-compatibility with other platforms, only Apple's platforms. So if you don't use any Android or Windows devices, this is not going to be an issue. But if you do want it to sync with an Android phone or a Windows computer, you are going to want the subscription-based payment option. And if you have the subscription service, you might be able to use other kinds of syncing services besides iCloud Sync, even on Apple's ecosystem. So if those features matter to you, you don't want to get the one-time purchase. I did get the one-time purchase because I don't use any Windows or Android devices currently, and I don't really see myself needing to use Goodnotes on any of those devices. So I do have the paid version here, but if you wanted to be a free user, these are going to be your limitations. You're going to be limited to 3 notebooks. Your audio recording is going to be limited to 20 minutes per notebook, so a total of an hour with those 3 notebooks. You have a limited template size. The AI math assistant is pretty limited. All your exported documents are going to have a watermark on them, and you won't be able to email to Goodnotes, you won't be able to do AI typing, and you won't get regular bonus stationery from the marketplace. So if absolutely none of those features matter to you, then feel free to stay on the free version, but I think limiting your notebooks to only 3 is a pretty big deal. Now, it doesn't stop you from making those notebooks really, really big, but at the same time, you're going to want the flexibility of having more than just 3 individual notebooks, at least in my opinion. So I would definitely go for the paid version, otherwise I would not get Goodnotes. So as I mentioned before, it is cross-platform, so you can get Goodnotes on Android and on Windows and on the Apple ecosystem, all of that for that $10 a year subscription. So especially if you're a cross-platform user, this is really something you should consider, and I think Goodnotes is probably your best bet. But again, that is requiring you to have a subscription in order to get cross-platform notes. So as you can see right up top, we have the pen tool, we have the eraser tool, we have a highlighter, we have this tape tool, we have a shape tool, we have the lasso tool, we can have a spot to add stickers, add images or PDFs or anything like that here, add text, a zoom option as well, a ruler, and a laser pointer. These are all of your basic tools. For every one of the writing options, you do have 3 preset sizes, but you can tap on them and get really detailed as to what exact size you want this to be. You can make them dashed or dotted lines. I don't really know how well that would work, but you can do that. And you can have some preset colors here, or even add more colors as well. And if no color is pictured that you want, you can even go in here and pick a color or go to a color wheel. You can get really fine-tuned with colors if you need to. With the eraser, you have 3 preset sizes, and those cannot be changed. You have to pick whichever one you'd like. Although you can go in here and change if it's the precision eraser, the standard, which erases more of like a whole segment of a stroke that's right around your eraser. Then you have the stroke eraser itself, which will erase the entire stroke you make. You can also erase only the highlighter or only the tape, or you can clear the page, auto deselect, disconnect the Apple Pencil, all that from these settings here. And as far as the highlighter, it defaults to drawing in a straight line, but if you don't like that, you can turn that off so it will just be freeform. And then these sizes are completely adjustable, just like the pen, so you can get really fine-tuned to whatever size you want the highlighter to be. And then just really quick again with the pen, these are your 3 different kinds of pens: fountain pen, ball pen, brush pen. You can kind of see a preview of what type of strokes that you're going to be making. So then when you're in some of these pens, you can also further adjust how pressure sensitive they are for the brush pen. And for the fountain pen, you can adjust the tip sharpness and the pressure sensitivity and the tip flatness. As well as just talking about the tools and the unique features of this, I also want to talk about how well each of these apps are optimized for the M4 iPad Pro specifically. That means taking advantage of the new features of the Apple Pencil Pro, like barrel roll, which the fountain pen does actually support. And when you squeeze, it brings up the menu of tools right in front of you, just like on Apple Notes. And you can change the brush size, you can change the color, you can change the tool, all of those kinds of things. However, I will say there is some things that you can't do from here. You can't super finely adjust all the pen stroke sizes. That still has to be done from up here. So it's slightly more limited, but it's not by much, and most things you're gonna wanna do from here, you can do anyway. So something you will see with all of these is that they have pretty much all the tools you could want. They can do the hold for shapes, they all have highlighters, they all have pens, and they can select objects. So a lot of these apps have some kind of math assistant or equation solving, and Goodnotes has that as well. It's only integrated in their specific template called exam prep. It's like this is the SAT exam prep, and it's not like it auto solves equations for you. It's more like if you say 2 plus 2 equals 6, it gives you an underline here. It more just tells you that when the equation is wrong, and it's meant to help you actually write out your own equations here and study for some kind of exam. So if some kinds of math notes is like a really important feature to you, I would say Goodnotes is not the best at that kind of stuff. There's also other features that Goodnotes has. You can totally do typed text. Also, the dictation works just fine in here as well. And everything along with that is continuing to work. You can also add recordings in here as well. So you can play that back if you need to. You can have multiple different audio files in here as well. You have 2 different clips. You can play them back at different times. You can even reduce the noise on them as well, which is pretty nice. It has a decent recording feature along with it. And when you're in the typed text, you can select some text and have AI fix the grammar, spelling, paraphrase, change the tone, which all those AI features are nice to have built right into this as well. And of course, if you needed to zoom in on something in particular, you can do that as well here and make more specific markings on these. It also has features like scribble to erase. And if you spell a word wrong, you can tap on it and it will correct the word and attempt to keep it in your own handwriting. I don't think it's like super accurate by any means, but it does a pretty good job. So that's Goodnotes for the most part. Obviously, I didn't go super in depth to every little detail about this app. And the reason for that is, right now we're trying to see the differences between these apps. And most of the things that all 3 of these apps can do are pretty consistent. They can all have pen tools that take pretty stinking good notes and are pretty well optimized for the iPad. All 3 of these apps have been out for a while and they work well and people depend on them. All of these things are true. Next up is Notability. And as far as pricing, this one is $15 per year. $5 more than Goodnotes, but still not a crazy price for a full year of the app. I will also mention that when I went to go buy it just recently, it gave me a 67% discount for the first year. So I only paid $5 to get all the features of it right now. So with the Plus version of Notability, it does give you unlimited edits. So again, without the full version, Notability only lets you have a few notebooks made. So I again feel like not getting the full version on these apps just isn't really that worth it. You're not gonna feel like you can utilize these without being able to make as many notebooks as you need. You're gonna feel very limited. It's not gonna be great. I don't recommend using these apps on the free version, just for that alone. You also get the iCloud sync across all your Apple devices. You also get auto backup, so you can back up to all of these different resources from Notability as well. And you get automatic audio transcription. So if you're using the record function in the notebook, you will also be getting that transcribed as well. And you will be able to get handwriting recognition and they'll be able to search that better and all that stuff if you have the paid version. And lastly, the math conversion as well. So if you find that you like Notability and you want to go for it, definitely get the paid version. Otherwise, I don't really recommend it at all. So as far as compatibility, assuming you have the paid version, you will be able to sync across all your Apple devices. That's pretty standard, that's pretty nice, but it does not have cross-compatibility. This is not something you're able to use on an Android device or a Windows device. That's just not gonna happen. And then as far as the tools here, so again, we see up top, we have a pen. This time we have a pencil as well, highlighter, eraser, text, select, insert, record, a navigation mode. You have the zoom function as well, a laser pointer for presenting, the tape function as well, a ruler, and if you want to edit the toolbar, that's where you're going to do it here. So basically, the biggest thing that's different is the pencil tool here, which this does have pressure sensitivity, so it will get darker as you write with it. It also has tilt, so you can do shading with the pencil as well, which is actually pretty stinking nice. This is very cool if you need a pencil and you need that shading for anything in your notes. You're only going to get this on Notability and Apple Notes. You're not going to get this on Goodnotes. The recording function of Notability is really, really good. It's definitely the best recording that there is. It is so good. And it really ties in what the person is saying to the notes that you're actually taking during that time. And that is a really, really good feature. So if you're in a lot of lectures, if you're in a lot of meetings, anything like that, this is a very, very powerful tool. So you can see as I'm playing it back, it will actually start to show me what I was running at the time of playbacks. Obviously, right now, it's all grayed out, and as I'm writing it, it shows what I was doing at that moment of speaking, which again, if you're in a lot of meetings, if you're in a lot of lectures, and you take a lot of notes while they're talking and you want to hear what they're saying as writing here, that is really, really nice. Also, if you just want to figure out where they said a certain thing that you took notes on, you can just scrub through, find when it highlights your notes about that section, and then just let it play. And it's going to talk all about what you were taking notes on at the time. So yeah, as far as voice notes and recordings integrated into notes, Notability wins hands down. It is the best at that kind of thing, and you're not going to find anything better here. So if that is your top priority, Notability is the one for you. Something I forgot to mention with Goodnotes that is true for both Goodnotes and Notability is that they have a large assortment of templates. I don't really know which one quite has more. If I'd have to give the win, I'd probably say Goodnotes because they're constantly adding new ones that I see all the time. But you can also add custom templates in. So both of these are going to give you lots of template options. So you can basically be writing on whatever kind of style of paper or page that you want to be writing on. Now, unlike Goodnotes, when you squeeze the pencil, you do not get a tool that's brought up. In fact, nothing is registered at all. Nothing happens. You do still get the double tap gesture to erase, but nothing happens with the squeeze gesture. Also, there is no hover support if you like to see your preview before you make a mark. None of that is here in Notability, and that's a little disappointing. It's not very optimized for the M4 iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil Pro, which would be really cool to see, but as far as I can tell, no tool takes advantage of the barrel roll. Nothing is taking advantage of the squeeze gesture, and the hover functionality is not here as well. So next up, we're going to talk about the first party app, Apple Notes. This is my go-to notes app, and I'm going to tell you guys why. There is no pricing I can give because there is no payment you have to give to use Apple Notes. If you bought an iPad Pro, it comes with Apple Notes, and all the features it has is completely included in your iPad, and it's on your iPhone, it's on your Mac, it's on all of your Apple devices by default. This also leads me right into compatibility. It's compatible with all of your Apple devices, and you can have it synced to all of them. You can also have different emails to your notes and actually utilize them here as well and have them sync via these accounts. So if some of your devices have your work account on it, those ones would get those work notes synced across them. So there is a lot of flexibility here as far as syncing. You can have a preset chosen for whatever line or grids for your handwriting notes that you want. And I'm a very basic person, so I just like line. I never use the super fancy templates that any other note-taking app comes with, so not having them here is not really a downside to me, but I totally understand if it is for someone else. I also think Apple Notes has the best dark mode notes look. Now, unfortunately, you can see a little bit more of the smudges on the screen with dark mode, but that's kind of to be expected. But just how everything adapts to dark mode is awesome. And then as soon as you switch back to light mode, everything just reverts and adjusts accordingly. And it is very nice and convenient in my opinion. So I think this does have really good compatibility, especially in the Apple ecosystem. And if you need to just view something and check something, even slightly interact with it from a Windows or Android device, you could access Apple Notes on iCloud.com and just quickly log into it, see what some of your notes were, and make a quick edit or two. That is definitely an option. Now, it's not like you have a native app on either of those systems. If you want to do a lot of adjusting and you want to do handwritten notes on all of those, it would not work anywhere near as well as on native Apple Notes. But if you're primarily on the Apple ecosystem and you just occasionally need to look at it from a Windows or Android device, this is plenty and fully capable of doing that. I also find that it takes the best advantage of the new Apple Pencil Pro and its features, which makes sense to first-party app, but the toolbar that comes right to your pencil is very full-featured. You can get to all of your tools right here, and when you tap on them, you can adjust the size of the brush, you can adjust the opaqueness of the brush, and you can fine-tune all the colors right from here. You can get really in depth with all the colors and sliders, all that stuff. You can even do a color picker. You can pick the gold from the Notes app here and actually write with that color. And as you can see, when I'm in light mode, I get a shadow from my pencil as well. And that is super neat. It adds some more realism to the pen. And now, as I'm sure you've noticed, while I've been writing these words, they've been slightly adjusting after I write them. That is part of the new Smart Script feature that corrects and straightens your handwriting as you go. And this is really nice for me because I don't have the greatest handwriting, and it's not perfect. Like, color is still not the greatest. Some of these are a little off the line now, but this feature is still very much in beta, and I'm very much excited to see where it's going to go from here. It also can spell check your handwriting, just like Goodnotes. And again, a little glitchy here, but it is being worked on, and I have already seen a big improvement of all these features from beta 1 to beta 2. So I expect when it is public that they will have all these things very much refined. And to be honest, even the feature in Goodnotes did not always work that great. So it's not like Goodnotes is far ahead of them in any way, shape, or form. There are also definitely some unique tools in Apple Notes, like the crayon tool. This one definitely supports tilt sensitivity, as it gets much wider when you tilt it to the side. That's a really cool effect if you do want to give the impression you are drawing with a crayon. They also have a watercolor brush, which again just gives a really cool effect if you're wanting to give that watercolor feel. I just very much find their first-party features and integrations to just be really, really nice. You can add attachments super easily. You can now record audio, which kind of brings up a very similar interface to voice memos, but you can record as you're recording. It will also show a live transcription, which is super, super cool. You can rename this as you're recording it. Let me call it test recording. And this is a really, really neat feature if you're at a lecture or something like that and you want to see all the different words that the guy's actually saying and actually be able to come back and reference the words themselves besides just the audio of what he was saying. So once you stop the recording, you can see it right here in your notes. You can play it right here in your notes, or you can take the transcription and add that to your notes. So it's all right here. Or you can copy that transcription and paste it anywhere you want to. You can search the transcription, which is really nice if you're looking for a keyword or something in particular that he said. You can also save the audio file to your Files app, share the audio file, or just delete it right here. But even deleting the audio file does not delete the transcription. You can still have that here even if you don't want to store the audio itself. You can also scan text, scan documents, attach a file, get a photo and video in here, and the PDF editor functions of this is pretty neat as well. You can totally mark them all up. You can highlight, no problem. You can look through all the different pages, actually see them all by their thumbnails here, and scroll through the entire PDF. You actually have a scroller as well, so you can really get through. Obviously, this is a very huge PDF file, but you can very easily get to all sorts of different pages, and this is how it handles a huge PDF file like this. I do wish this allowed you to see the chapters of the PDF, because I know this PDF file has chapters. That would be really, really cool, but this is still much easier to navigate than it was in the Notes app, and it's a very good optimization of PDFs in Notes. I do also believe when Apple Intelligence gets released to this iPad, it'll also be able to summarize and add just bullet points and key points to your transcription that you got as well. So while Notability did have a really cool way of showing what you were writing while the person was speaking, this is still some really good transcription and recording support. So I think this is a very good alternative. And for me, recording someone talking is not a top and always a priority for me. I don't do it very often, in fact. So the few times I do, this is going to give me plenty of features for that, and I will not complain about it at all. So I truly believe that with iPadOS 18 and with several of the other things that Apple Notes have done in the last few years, they are just pushing ahead of competition. Another thing is, by far, they have the best math notes ever. You just can do 4 plus 4 equals, and it just gives you the answer. You can also do much more complicated equations, and you can have it generate a graph for you. You can do really impressive things with Apple Notes here, and it will remember your variables, and I can add this to the existing graph. I don't really know what it's graphing exactly here, but obviously these are very simplistic equations. You can get really complicated with this math notes, and that's something where I don't feel like you can get that complicated with the other math notes. It is kind of helpful for certain things, but this is just all around having a calculator built into your notes, and you don't have to have it autofill like I do. You can also have it just suggest the result or just turn it off entirely. I like it to just auto insert them for me as soon as I draw the equal sign. I think that's super cool, and I definitely like that. Also, if you use the new calculator app on the iPad and the math notes in there, you can also view any math notes you've made there, as well as anytime you use math notes in your other notes, they'll all appear under this new category. So that's the basics on those 3 note-taking apps. Now, I'm gonna really quick throw in 2 honorable mentions, as I feel like they're still really good note-taking apps, but they're just not as well known and commonly used. And I don't really see them as best in class or having all the top-notch features I would want in a note-taking app. The first one is Noteshelf 3. This is all around, there's a very nice note-taking app. I did not upgrade to premium. That limits me in a few different ways. As you can see here, I don't get access to unlimited notes. I don't get handwriting recognition and search. And I don't get digital diaries. I was still able to explore this app and use it very well, and it had a lot of really interesting features. Overall, it's laid out a lot more like Notability, but it only has a pen tool, kind of like Goodnotes. So it seems like a little bit of a mix between the two there. And it's also got this really interesting function of AI. If you have written a bunch of stuff, it will actually use AI to recognize what you wrote and summarize it, rewrite it, or you can just ask it a question and tell it to summarize the Book of Proverbs, which is what I did. And then you can add it into your notebook as handwriting. All of this stuff right here is what the AI in the notebook added itself, and it put it all in very neatly into my notebook. That's a really cool way of using AI in your note-taking, and I thought that was worth mentioning. Overall, this app isn't like blowing me away or anything, but I used to use Noteshelf 2 a long time ago, and I thought this was a pretty interesting upgrade from Noteshelf. It also is just a one-time purchase of $10, especially if you're looking for an affordable, cheap, one-time purchase option. This is definitely it. The next honorable mention is OneNote. Now, I actually don't like OneNote very much. It seems a bit clunky to me, and I find a lot of the drawing tools not very full featured, and it seems more optimized for text note taking. Now, it also has an infinite canvas, which means that you don't just have infinite vertical scrolling, but you can also do horizontal scrolling and just keep going that way as well. And that's cool for some kinds of things. It means you never really run out of space on a page, but at the same time, I don't know when I would really use a horizontal scroll in a note-taking app. Something like that is great when I use apps like Freeform, so it literally goes any way and I never run out of space. That makes sense for Freeform. But for OneNote, it's not really a draw for me. It's fine, it's not a bad thing, but it's not that impressive either. It does have a math assistant and it does the job. You kind of highlight an equation and it can give you an answer, but when you insert it, it's just in text, and I don't know, it's just kind of clunky of an app. It doesn't feel super optimized for mobile and iPad. And I've even had some times where I've been handwriting with it and it got a little glitchy and behind. So there's just more optimization that needs to be made, in my opinion, before this is a really recommendable app. But there is a benefit. If you're in the Microsoft ecosystem and you already have an Office subscription, your work is needing you to use OneNote for certain things like that, this app is still good enough where it can be your note taker for those circumstances. And it will just be able to sync with all of your Microsoft Office apps across Windows, Android, iOS, all of that stuff. It's all synced through your Microsoft OneDrive. And that is really helpful for a lot of people out there. I also understand a lot of students use Microsoft Office and get student discounts on them and everything like that, so they might have a free Office account already. So if that's the case, then you're already using Office, and this is not a bad note-taking app, and it will keep everything all in one place and organized together. There are also other smart features coming to Apple Notes soon, like the ability to move text around and add spaces in there as well. You're also supposed to be able to paste in typed text as your own handwriting. And I've gotten it to work a couple times, but it's being finicky for me right now and it is not working. So keep in mind, features are in beta, but these are things that are coming, and I have seen progress made on them, that they are still working on them and coming in iPadOS 18. So by the time this is public, I am sure those features are going to be working very, very well, if not flawlessly. You also are supposed to be able to scribble to erase, kind of like Goodnotes, but that is also been kind of hit or miss of whether or not it'll work. So right now it's not seeming to work for me at all. But hey, again, beta, bear with it. That's part of testing it out so I can see what things are and aren't working. And for Goodnotes, I don't think I mentioned that you can circle something and then it turns into a lasso tool, which is actually really nice. And it means you don't have to go select the lasso tool every single time you need to move something around. I do appreciate that from Goodnotes. They also have a feature that's experimental right now, where as you're writing sentences, it'll try to suggest words to finish your sentence and autofill them in your own handwriting. So as you can see here, it is saying it's an experimental. I'll turn that on. Let's see if I can get it to suggest anything for me. I am trying to do something. Yes. And hey, that was actually pretty good. When it's finishing a word, I find that that's not terrible. When it tries to finish an entire sentence, it gets worse. So actually that was better than I remember. So maybe they have been working on this feature a little bit. Try it at your own risk, but in my experience, it's not very reliable. All right, so to wrap this up, which of these apps do I actually recommend to what kind of people? If you need an app that is fully functional on Android and Windows, I think Goodnotes is the option you should go for. $10 a year, I mean, it may seem kind of like a lot, but considering that's like half the price of a subscription service to some kind of streaming per month, it's really not that bad. It's under $1 a month, and for all the features they're giving you from that, I think it's pretty fair. And for that huge amount of cross-compatibility, it's just really, really convenient. I find Goodnotes to be a great middle ground. It doesn't have all of the absolute best features in the world. It's got a couple of them that are pretty unique and feature rich, but it's not always like gonna have these mind-blowing features, but it's good. It's not great notes, it's good notes. So that is kind of a good way to look at it. And if you need that cross-compatibility, this is the app for you. And for Notability, I would only really recommend it to you if you really need a pencil feature, you really don't want to use Apple Notes, or you need the way that it records audio and matches it with your handwriting. If that's something that's going to be critical to what you need to do, then yes, get Notability. But again, you're paying a subscription, that's going to be $15 a year. Then there's my personal favorite, which is Apple Notes. And I know that it's the simplest seeming app. It seems too easy to just pick that as your note-taking app. But I tried Goodnotes for a while. I tried Notability for a pretty good amount of time. And now I retested out all these apps for this video and kind of experimented with all of them again. I'm still not really finding enough of a reason to make me switch over from Apple Notes. It's just very integrated with everything I already do. If I ever want to use Quick Notes and pull those up from the corner here, this is all going to sync into Apple Notes, not any other note-taking app. And I do like the option of having Quick Notes available on my iPad like that, and being able to just pull out from the corner of any app and just start taking notes on it. It is really nice, and all of those kind of integrations, it's just made me not want to switch away from the first-party app. And Apple has proven that they will basically add some kind of improvement to Notes every year. And that's pretty impressive. Not every note-taking company does that. And they're always on the cutting edge because obviously they know what's coming ahead, which is very helpful. And I'm not blaming Notability for not having all those Apple Pencil Pro support ability yet, but I think they should really get on it. Goodnotes is already taking on some of that stuff, and I think that it would be wise if these other apps did that as well. And if you're just wanting an all-around, simple to use, pretty cheap note-taking app, Noteshelf 3 is totally cool. And if you like that AI chat bots integrated at all, totally go for it. It's $10. Worst case scenario, you don't like it and you wasted $10. It's just a neat all-around app. I think they did a pretty good job with it. And obviously, like I said before, OneNote I only really recommend to people who are already in the Microsoft ecosystem. I don't think OneNote should be the reason you get into the Office and Microsoft world. I do not think it's good enough for that, in my opinion. I think it's just a okay note-taking app. It has really good synchronization with Microsoft, and because of that, it's very cross-platform. So those are all super cool things about it. But as far as the actual note-taking experience, especially handwritten stuff for the iPad, it's fine. It's not phenomenal, and that's why I was only an honorable mention. I didn't really make it a big part of this video. So if you've had this negative impression of Apple Notes for like a long time, thinking that it's just like the super simple, super dumb note-taking app, I would give it another shot. I personally am going to stick to using Apple Notes, and it does everything I need it to do. I also don't really use Windows or Android devices very often, so the few times I do, signing to iCloud is not a big deal, but for some people that might be. So I hope this video was able to distinguish which one of these apps would suit you best, and I want to hear all about your choices in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I know this is kind of a long video, but I wanted to really show each unique feature and use case for all of these different apps. And in case you didn't notice, we made it past 1,000 subscribers already, and that's really, really awesome. Thank you to all of you who are subscribed and supported me this far. I have a new goal now. My goal is 5,000 subscribers before the end of summer. I mean, I think we can do it. It's kind of a bold goal, but I'm ready for it. Let's go. I'm gonna keep trying to post at least a video a week, if not 2 videos a week. I'm gonna do my part to be as consistent as possible and be posting quality content every single time I post. So sometimes I may take some time on a certain video or topic because I don't wanna rush it out just to be first. I need to actually make sure I have real opinions and thoughts and perspectives on what I'm sharing. Otherwise, it's not worth me putting out another video that's just a waste of your time. And as always, if you're curious about any of the equipment I use in my current setup, it's gonna be linked in the description below. If you wanna chat with me about these iPads, if you wanna chat with me about your note-taking apps, please do it in the comments. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and have a great rest of your day.